I thought I would bring you into the area where I have been working this last month and a half on gardening stuff and getting myself set up. And I wanted to kind of go over how I do my seed startings with you, but before I do that, I wanted to kind of give you a picture of my setup. So you can see here I have 1, 2, 3, 4 shelves with 3 shelves on it, and every single shelf has lights. What I try to do, and I have to do some gardening, inside gardening today, is I try to start my seeds off on 2 shelves and then, or at least 1 shelf, and as they get bigger and they need more space, I graduate them over to eventually this one, and then hardening off outside, and then eventually into the garden. So right now I don't have a seed house, and that's a seed house. Having a seed house would be the ideal situation for me, I think, but this is pretty darn good, and so I wanted to show that to you, what I got set up this year. Now, over the last several years, we started out with 1 shelf. We didn't start out with 4 shelves, and I didn't even have grow lights, and I discovered I needed grow lights, and so I got some grow lights, and then I discovered I needed heating mats, so then I got some heating mats. And then I quickly discovered that first year that 1 shelf was very inadequate for the size of garden I was doing and what I was trying to accomplish. And so over the years we've added lighting, and I've learned a lot about seed starting. And seed starting in conjunction to living in Maine. Maine has a much a much shorter growing season than other states, and we have long winters, right? So I quickly have learned that some things that normally would just be direct sown in the ground, actually here, if we're going to reap a good harvest, will need to actually be started prior. So I have to do a lot of seed starting, which is why I need a seed house. But in the meantime, I want to kind of give you kind of a rundown what I got going on here. All right, you might think, well, this is really early because we are in April to be doing the pumpkins and squashes and gourds and all that. But I have a lot of squash bugs that come every year, and so I have a sacrifice patch, and I put all my less desirables out there. And then as they start blooming or growing, you'll see there's little baby stuff here. I will pinch off any flowers that do bloom just because it's too early in the season. But all these actually will be put into a bigger pot. And what I don't have space for in my garden, I will be planting in the paddocks for the animals, so when they come out of pasture in the fall and into their barn, they'll have lots of treats. So you can see that I do need to transplant. They're struggling a little bit. They're just out of space. And you can see down there I did have some struggles when I was seeding and stuff, and so I will go over that with you shortly. But these all have to be transplanted. Over here you'll see these spindly little things here. That is not a bed. These are onions, right? And I have to start onions, otherwise I don't get a good harvest because it just doesn't stay hot long enough. All right, so down here I have more pumpkin-y squashy things, and I have cabbage right there. I'm doing some extra fermenting this year because of my dietary needs, so I need to actually do a lot of fermenting. And then down below you'll see I have more pumpkins and squashes and stuff I need to transplant. And this I also need to transplant, but I wanted to kind of touch bases with you. So here you can see this is some lettuce, and you can see moss growing, not moss, but almost like it's it's like green, getting green on the top of the soil, and that's not necessarily a good thing. And you can see where these are just not very happy. And this is romaine. I typically like to get a burst of romaine going. You can direct seed these here in Maine, but I like having growth in my garden. This is basil, and I still struggled with the basil in the same way, and we'll go over why that happened. And then over here we had some non-germination. Then on this side I have pickling cucumbers and salad cucumbers. Now I can't eat a lot of those. However, these are a different variety I wanted to try because I struggle each year with cucumbers. And I don't have a greenhouse. That's another year. But these kind of cucumbers do not require pollination. And so I'm going to see if I can do a little bit better this year with cucumbers there. So these have to be worked with, at least the cucumbers. And I might even mess with the basil a little bit. All right, these are all going to look funny because they're under different colored lights, and so I find that it's a little bit difficult to see what's really transpiring. But this is, these are marigold flowers. Now, you'll see some of them look kind of poor, and we're going to go over the reasons why. I made some mistakes this year in my seed processing, and they're common beginner mistakes, so we'll go over that. Down here on the second shelf right there, I have calendula. I started those because I'm actually going to be utilizing that as a medicinal thing for my health this year. So I wanted to see, I have a lot of calendula that I can direct sow, but I wanted to see how it does with transplanting. These are tomatoes. I'm not canning tomatoes this year, specifically because I struggle with digesting them. However, these are the indeterminate varieties, and this is delicious tomatoes. So if I ever decide to cheat, that's what I will cheat on. And then I will share with my friends and family. And then down at the very bottom, and we're going to be transplanting some of those, that is all corn starts. Now, normally you just direct seed corn, but here in Maine, I have yet to have a good corn harvest because, one, I didn't really plant a lot, and corn needs to be planted close together so that they cross-pollinate. However, I also don't have good growing season for corn, so this year I'm trying to do starts. All right, and then over here I have more marigolds, and these are different varieties than the other. These are all medicinal marigolds. And then below I have broccoli, and down there I have another flower, and I believe, yeah, this is chamomile. I don't know if you're supposed to start chamomile like that, but I did, and we do need to transplant that. Okay, so common mistakes that are made when you're seeding is, one, it's not necessarily a bad thing to put your, let's say, seeds in a tray like this and not separate it out. But then we have to come in and we have to separate each one of these and put them into bigger things. Essentially, transplanting baby seedlings is really tough on the plant. However, if you take the roots and you dip them in a little bit of water and you carefully separate them, they should transplant fairly easy. Now, you don't want to do it until adult leaves form, which we'll go over that in a minute. But one of the mistakes that I made this year, and I've made it several years, and I guess I didn't just connect the dots, is a lot of times you'll get with these seed trays like this, it'll come with some cells and a lid. And this plastic lid that goes over the top acts as a greenhouse, and it helps control the temperature as well as trap moisture in, and makes a really nice environment for germination. However, once germination takes place, that means when the seed pops up out of the ground and it gets its first baby leaves, that lid is no longer needed. And if you leave that lid on, you get mistakes like I have with, here, let me pull this up here. I had right here with these ones. Now, I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but a little bit on the soil here that's really dark. It's really moist soil. It's not too moist, but it was moist for too long. And so it created like this green, it's not mildew, but almost like a moss growing. Not to mention, but it will prevent healthy germination. So basically you want to take that lid off so that good air movement gets to your plants before the buildup of warm soil happens that's wet, warm, moist soil. Now, so here's the trick is not only do you need to have a warmer environment, let's say about between 65 and 72 degrees for germination of seeds, okay? Which can be tricky to do and regulate in a small area, which is why having a nice room here with a heat pump in here is really helpful. But you also need to have air movement. And air movement is super important because it allows the cells of and the structure of the baby plants to strengthen as the wind comes or the air comes and moves over your plants. It makes them stronger and hardier. And it creates a better plant for successful outcome for a harvest. The other thing that's super important that I learned really quickly, and I think I'm doing much better with, and it's not perfect, but I'm doing much better. You'll see on some of these that my grow lights are super close to the plant. I mean, we're talking 2 finger lengths from the top of the plant. And this is the case so that you don't get the long, spindly things. So for instance, here's some that are long and spindly. They're not all super long, and these are actually pretty good, but you can see some of these are quite long. And these need to be transplanted and stuff. These are broccoli. However, the longer you get, the weaker that plant is. And the harder it is for that plant to survive and actually be viable and healthy enough to transplant outside and provide you a harvest. So we really want to make sure that we keep the light close to the plants. And then we want to make sure that we have, once germination takes place, you can take heat mats off. You can lower the temperature because it's not about the speed of the plant growing, although that's really hard to avoid. It's not about the speed of the seed growing into a plant. It's about once that sprout happens, you need to lower the temperature of your growing environment, let's say between, I have mine about 65, okay? Because I'm not trying to get them massive. I'm trying to keep them healthy so that they'll handle a transplant into the garden outside much better. That being said, if you have too much heat, you're going to create too much growth. So it's really important that once that germination happens, you take off the lid and you can take off the warming mat, unless you're doing unique flowers that require special instructions. But for the garden variety, garden plant, once germination happens, you can unplug the heat mat and you can take off the lid. You can lower the temperature in the room to about 65 degrees, and you can reduce the amount of fast growth that your plant deals with. The other thing is, as your plants want to spurt out flowers to produce fruit, like let's say pumpkins, zucchini, cucumbers, those kinds of things, you're going to take those first flowers and you're going to pinch them right off, because you're not trying to produce fruit right now. You're trying to grow a healthy plant. So as that happens, I'll be doing that. We don't have any flowers today, but that's okay. We have a lot of transplanting to do. So I have a tabletop in here that I use. I typically just dump some organic seed starting soil into a bucket, fill it up, put some water in it till it has a nice water to soil ratio, not too wet but not too dry. And then I will start the transplanting process, and I'll bring you with me. Be right back. All right, so soil matters. So this is some organic seed starting soil, and you can see that it's slightly crumbly, but if I squeeze it, just very little water comes out and it stays together. And that is what you want for a good seed starting mix. A little bit of water, not too much, and it clumps together. That's really important to not over soak your seeds. And this soil is so dry when you get it that it's really hard for the water to absorb. So I like to pre-soak. Now you don't have to do that. That's just the way I like to do it. And it's been successful for me. Some people don't, and that's cool. I love that for them. Anyway, so I've got a 5-gallon bucket, and I just added some water. I don't know how much. I use a stick and I stir it around till I see that it's starting to absorb that water, and then I pull it out, mix it really thoroughly, and I go ahead and get it ready. Now I want to put this little note in there. It's super, super important to not add fertilizer to your starts. Just don't do it. It's not necessary. They don't need it. I personally use organic stuff if needed, and it's water soluble, and I only do it after they are doing really, really well and have some permanent growth leaves, and I use very, very little, and so that you guys are aware of it. It's not necessary to do it. However, if you're showing that your plant is in distress, there are some natural solutions that you can use to help those problems. The best way to have healthy plants is to not overwater, not underwater. Don't keep your dome on too long. Have your lighting just above the plants, and to care for them. Just care for your plants. And that is the best way to have healthy plants. Now I'm just gonna get going and get transplanted. I have a lot to do today. I probably won't get it all done because I'm feeling a little bit tired today, but I do want to get going. So let's get to planting. You can see this root system. Isn't that gorgeous? Whew. So I'm going to go ahead and break that root system up a little bit, not too much. And then I'm going to go ahead, and I think I want to do a little bit less soil. Maybe I'll go like this, push it down, and then I'm going to actually bring the plants up like so. It's a little interesting doing this on camera. Okay, so once I get them transplanted, they're gonna go on a tray like this. And this is how I end up running out of room. And I can tell you I'm gonna run out of room before I even get done here. But we're gonna figure it out as we go. So as you get them like this, we're just gonna pop them in here. And I'll stagger them so that they don't get squished too much. Well, and they're round, right? Each one has a little tag, so they should do just fine. And this one was struggled a little bit, but that's okay. As long as I have one per thing, I'll be good. Then once this is full and I have space for others, and each pot is tagged, so I can make some now and it's not that big of a deal. I'm gonna go ahead and place them on the shelf right over here, probably on the bottom row, and then I'll do some more and we'll fill that up, and then we will water the bottom. See that this one struggled a little bit compared to all the other ones. It's also really weak. So, yeah. I mean, I can see if we can salvage it. Maybe, maybe not. I'll find out. This is the next one. It's huge difference in root development. Okay, my friends, well, my battery died, and so I finished up the first tray that you guys were watching. I now have this available because this is what everything was in, and now I'm transplanting my tomatoes. So you can see that I have them all planted and they self-germinate. I'm very delicately separating the plants. Now I want to share with you, and if I can't separate them easily, I just leave them together. But these are, I don't know if you can see here, these are the baby leaves on the tomato plant. Here, let me see. Yeah, so there's very teeny tiny hairs. I don't know if you can see them on the stem. Those are all roots, and so you can bury these right up to the baby leaves. I don't have enough deep enough cells for that, but we're gonna try our best. tomato tags. All right, my friends, I'm gonna go ahead and mark these tags and get them put in the pots and put the pots under the grow lights and make sure everybody has water. I'm exhausted already, but I did work a full day, so there is that, and it's well past 7 p.m. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, put those tags in there, water, and I'll bring you back for more gardening videos for sure. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing to our YouTube channel. If you haven't, go ahead and do that. Now's a good time. Don't forget to hit the notification bell that's below in the video. That will let you know every time we upload content. And we've been posting shorts, so don't forget to go and watch those. Those are under 3 minutes generally, and those are really easy ways to catch up with us in between times of us posting videos. Those are unedited typically, and they are just us doing our thing in real time. So don't forget again to like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching our YouTube channel. God bless. Bye.